You check your bank account, scroll through your investments, maybe even tally up your net worth. Everything looks okay, but somehow it still feels like you're falling behind. Friends are buying homes, traveling, upgrading their lifestyles while you're just there trying to make it to the next paycheck. How can this be when your numbers aren't bad? This is a challenge many of us face. But why? Why are so many people feeling behind when they're actually way ahead? The answer isn't about spending more or keeping up with others. It's about timing, perception, and quiet wins. Most people never notice. By the end of this video, you'll see why feeling behind might actually mean you're ahead. This video is sponsored by Moomoo. Right now, when you deposit your first $100, you get $20 in Nvidia stock, a 20% bonus. Plus, they're offering up to 8% APY and uninvested cash for a limited time. Check out the referral code in the comments to sign up. Those big money and life milestones that we all chase, these milestones aren't really that at all. They're just something made up by society. Think about it. Be a millionaire by 50, own a house by 35, or buy a new car when you get your first job and get a new one every 3 to 5 years. On the surface, these sound like achievements, but they're really just cultural expectations, not real measures of success. Everyone is trying to compete with these expectations at the same time, disregarding what's actually best for them. Your friends, colleagues, and even strangers online are all seemingly hitting these benchmarks, which makes it feel like the finish line keeps moving farther away. When you see others striving to reach these milestones, it's easy to assume you're lagging behind. But in reality, most of those milestones are more about keeping up with what people think they should be doing than doing what's actually best for them. Being a millionaire by 50 sounds like an achievement, but the numbers alone don't tell the whole story. Imagine someone earning $400,000 per year, but spending $500,000 per year. On paper, they look successful. They drive the nice car, live in the big house, and project wealth. But in reality, they're sinking further into debt every year, constantly stressed about keeping up with the lifestyle they've built. In contrast, someone making $50,000 but living on $30,000 has breathing room. They save consistently, build investments, and sleep soundly, knowing they aren't one missed paycheck away from disaster. True financial health isn't about hitting arbitrary milestones or showing off big numbers. It's about flexibility, stability, and control over your money so you can make choices without constantly worrying. And this is where comparison sneaks in. It's not your bank account making you feel behind. It's the constant side by side with everyone else's life. You see someone your age posting vacation photos in Greece. Listen to your coworkers talk about their newly remodeled kitchen. And suddenly your perfectly fine life feels inadequate. What you don't see are the sacrifices they're making behind the scenes. Comparison is a trap because it tricks you into measuring your life against someone else's largest achievements. You stop appreciating your own progress and start chasing milestones that may not even matter to you. Think about it. If you never saw what your peers were doing, would you still feel behind? Or would you recognize that living within your means, building investments, and sleeping without money stress is actually winning? The truth is, financial peace is often invisible. It doesn't get likes, it doesn't trend, but it quietly gives you freedom that flashy upgrades can't. Here's a counterintuitive twist. That nagging sense of being behind is sometimes a sign you're actually on the right path. People who constantly think about their finances tend to be more self-aware, disciplined, and intentional. They check balances, track spending, and make investment choices with purpose. Meanwhile, those who never stress about money or claim they don't care about money might feel carefree, but they're most likely much further behind. Studies suggest that people who worry about finances often have higher savings rates and better investment habits than those who don't care. That anxiety isn't a flaw. It's evidence you're engaged and actively steering your financial future. Imagine two coworkers in their early 30s, both making about the same salary. One worries constantly, checking if their 401k contributions are on track, logging every expense, and thinking carefully before investing. The other regularly maxes out their credit cards, skips tracking their spending, and assumes things will just work out. The first person may seem stressed, but they're steadily building an emergency fund, contributing to retirement, and chipping away at student loans. The second feels carefree today, but 5 years down the line, they're still living paycheck to paycheck with minimal savings and mounting debt. That stress you feel isn't a flaw. It's proof you're paying attention and setting yourself up for long-term financial freedom. Feeling behind often just means you're operating under a different and sometimes smarter set of rules. Take housing for example. Everyone preaches that buying a home is the ultimate financial milestone, but that's not always true. Whether it makes sense ultimately depends on your circumstances, timing, priorities, and other goals. Renting can come with real advantages. You keep your savings intact instead of locking them into a down payment. You avoid the stress of a mortgage, and you have the flexibility to move when better opportunities come up. The problem is, society often judges renters as if they're failing, even in cases where renting is the more rational choice. Or consider student loans. Paying them off slowly might feel frustrating, but it might improve cash flow in a meaningful way. For example, if you're carrying $30,000 in student loans at a 4% interest rate, it might make sense to stick with the standard repayment schedule. Instead of rushing to pay it off, you could put the extra money to work in a brokerage account or a Roth IRA, where the potential returns may outweigh the cost of that relatively low-interest debt. That freed-up cash flow can compound over decades, often building long-term wealth much faster than aggressively paying off the loan at the expense of investing. Sure, your parents might cringe at that idea of not wiping out the debt as quickly as possible. But the math often tells a different story. Someone who delays home ownership or other big purchases to manage debt responsibly could end up financially stronger than a peer who rushes into a house, maxes out their budget, and loses flexibility. Buying a new car often feels like a milestone. Friends compliment it. Social media lights up with new ride posts and it gives that instant sense of accomplishment. But here's the catch. New cars depreciate fast, sometimes 20 to 30% in the first year, and payments, insurance, and maintenance can drain cash that could otherwise be working for you. Meanwhile, someone who skips the upgrade is quietly hitting a bigger milestone, avoiding crazy depreciation, keeping expenses lower, and freeing up cash to invest, pay down debt, or build a safety net. Once again, people just can't wrap their heads around why you would stick with a beat-up car when you could just walk into a car dealer, sign a few papers, and drive off with something brand new. Paying down a credit card a little faster, automating retirement contributions, or tucking away cash for unexpected expenses might seem minor, but together they create a safety net and financial flexibility that flashy milestones like a big house or a new car can't match. The quiet wins are often the ones that matter most. Psychology plays a huge role in why we feel behind. Our brains are wired to notice what's missing more than what we've already accomplished. You might fixate on the $10,000 in debt that's still hanging over your head while barely registering the $20,000 you've already paid off. You focus on the house you haven't bought yet instead of the $50,000 steadily growing in your retirement account. Even if you started investing young, you still regret not investing earlier. Wins unfortunately feel invisible compared to the milestones you haven't yet hit. The problem is there will always be milestones you haven't reached. If you let that dominate your perspective, you risk downplaying everything you have accomplished. That mindset can spiral into discouragement, poor financial choices, or even giving up on good habits. Recognizing your wins, even the quiet incremental ones, is essential to staying motivated and building lasting wealth. This isn't a flaw, it's human wiring. In the wild, spotting gaps and potential threats was essential for survival. Today, that same instinct can trick you into feeling behind, making the slow, early phases of wealth building feel frustrating and unproductive, even while you're quietly laying the foundation for long-term success. Most people don't start wealth building early. The average millionaire is in their 60s, which usually means 30 to 40 years of working, saving, and investing. Few people start early, and even those who do rarely begin serious wealth accumulation before their mid-30s or 40s. After landing stable jobs, starting retirement contributions, and hopefully avoiding major financial mistakes early on, net worth grows slowly and gains can feel almost invisible. Debt still looms and the progress you're making doesn't feel proportional to the effort. That's why it's easy to feel behind, like everyone else is racing ahead. When in reality, You're quietly laying the groundwork for significant wealth that becomes more and more obvious as time passes. Most people give up just before things accelerate, missing the moment when growth truly becomes noticeable. So, why do you feel behind financially? Not necessarily because you are. That feeling comes from chasing arbitrary milestones, early slow growth, and focusing on what's missing instead of your achievements. But, ironically, it's also a sign you're paying attention and making smarter choices than most. Wealth doesn't happen overnight. It's built through steady contributions, smart investing, and intentional choices that quietly compound into freedom and security. The next time you feel behind, remember progress isn't measured by cultural benchmarks, but by the steady accumulation of financial strength. So keep going. The payoff will be bigger than you think.